Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery and welcome back to my channel. This week has been such an exciting week because we've finally got an official update on the progress of the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive. It feels kind of nostalgic at this point to be talking about what's going to happen in the next book. When I started my channel, it was kind of in the lead up to Rhythm of War, so I'm just so keen to be back talking about Stormlight in a more relaxed fashion, still with a bit of theorying, but it's nice to take a break from those giant Stormlight videos and just to nerd out. Alright, so firstly, going very quickly through the information Sanderson has given us and then kind of extrapolating into theory territory with what we've seen so far. So unfortunately, again, it has been delayed. It has been delayed to pretty much late 2024, so there's now 2 years pretty much until the next Stormlight book from this point. But we have a lot of Cosmere in between to keep us occupied, and honestly, I don't mind a bit of a delay if it assures some quality and it gives some time for Sanderson to work on the adaptations he's been talking so much about, which is very exciting. He described on his Reddit post and YouTube update that he is writing this 5th book by focusing on character groupings, writing those sections, and then moving on to the next character grouping. And right now his main focus is on Kaladin and Szeth, which is just the buddy cop movie we've been waiting for since the end of Words of Radiance, I would say. So he said this is shaping up. It was going to be about 100,000 words, but their sequence is looking to be potentially 150,000 words, which is just gigantic. And this entire Stormlight book just sounds like it's going to be an absolute behemoth, which I'm sure none of us are complaining about. So what Sanderson said was this: I know the Szeth backstory has been a long time coming. I hope it lives up to your expectations. There are some interesting lore secrets here to reveal, and the climax is something I've been building to since book 1. Indeed, you'll find the death rattles from the first volume referencing the events here in this sequence. Now, if you're a long-time subscriber, you'll know I delved into the death rattles as much as I could, and I feel like if you want to scratch that itch and have a look at how these death rattles might impact the ending of book 5, I will refer the series somehow to you now. I still believe a lot of those theories are quite plausible and quite possible, even with the new information that we've got here for Stormlight 5. So what were we shown? We were shown this incredible new concept art by Randy Vargas. He's a fantastic fan artist of Stormlight, and I guess now you would call him an official concept artist for Stormlight. Now, I basically scoured over this image for a time that is much too embarrassing to say out loud, but I have looked over every pixel in this image to try and extrapolate any information we could possibly get. So without a shadow of a doubt, this is our boy Kaladin flying in from the left-hand side with our edgy lad Szeth, and these two are on a mission in Shinovar. Shinovar has been one of those places that has been interesting to myself, and I'm sure all of you guys, since that first chapter with Risen in The Way of Kings. It's just such a breath of fresh air compared to the foreign landscape of Roshar, to see a place that resembles Earth and resembles kind of your typical fantasy story plotted into this world where it just seems so foreign has been such an interesting concept to read throughout the books. It's been a minute since Rhythm of War came out, so what I wanted to do was provide a bit of a refresher as to why these two lads are in Shinovar and kind of have a few guesses about what we might be seeing in the 5th book. So at the end of book 4, Dalinar is accompanied by Szeth and a bunch of Windrunner squires to kind of check out what the Herald Ishar is doing. This guy, this bloody Herald, has been doing experiments. He's basically just like all Heralds. He's a bit of a mad lad, and he's been up to some mischievous activities, to put it lightly. The main gist of what you really need to know about Ishar is he was the person who originally allowed, or was an integral part of how humans got from the planet Ashen and travelled to Roshar. So this is a guy who would have been there at the inception of Shinovar. He is right at the thick of what is going on in Shinovar, its religion, its customs. He was there for the beginning of it. And currently he's trying to bring Spren into the physical realm in scenes that resemble a horror novel that we were left with at the end of book 4. But there is an incredibly intense confrontation between Szeth and Ishar and Dalinar at the end of this book, where we find out that Ishar has retrieved his honor blade from Szeth's father. And this has been alluded to a lot and really referred to blatantly throughout the series, that the Shin people have kept pretty much all of the honor blades since the last distillation. They have been the caretakers of them, and we find out that Szeth's father was one of the key caretakers of the blades. Szeth has an incredibly intense response to seeing this. He says that our people were never going to give these blades back to you. We kept your secrets, but you're lying if my father gave you that blade. And Ishar says that Szeth's father is dead, and Szeth completely loses it, and we get that incredible fight scene where Nightblood is actually able to chip an honor blade, which I'm sure has incredible Cosmere and intense lore possibilities, but I don't really want to jump into that in this video. What I find incredibly interesting in this sequence is that Ishar actually says the Shin people had started to worship an unmade. He said that they tried to make gods of them, and kind of frames the death of Szeth's father as a gift, that he begged him or was thankful for letting Ishar take the blade and letting him die. And this is where we start to get into interesting territory in terms of what we see in the artwork. But before we jump into that, let's talk about why is Kaladin there? To put it simply, Dalinar has kind of tasked Kaladin to accompany our boy Szeth, because, letting that lad go off by himself may be a tad bit risky. Szeth is on a personal mission in Shinovar. He wants to confront these stone shamans who named him Truthless, because that has been completely flipped on its head and turned out to be a lie. Interestingly, there is a moment in this sequence where Ishar gains some clarity after opening a perpendicularity, and he speaks very clearly to Dalinar. It's like his mental illness or whatever is corrupting him completely disappears, and he says this to Dalinar: "Nevertheless, I feel my sanity slipping. My mind is broken and I do not know if it can be healed. Perhaps you can restore me for a short time after an ideal is spoken near me. Everyone sees a little more clearly when a radiant touches the spiritual realm. For now, listen well. I have an answer, a way to fix the problems that beset us. Come to me in Shinovar. I can reset the Oath Pact, though I must be sane to do it." Now, the implications of resetting the Oath Pact could go in a million different directions, but what I'm really taking for this is Ishar has a clear knowledge of what is infecting or altering the mental capacity or the mental abilities and the mental state of the heralds. And with this mention of an unmade being in Shinovar, I just see all of these plot lines kind of weaving into one, forming a key element as to sort of how madness is working on the planet of Roshar, at least in regards to heralds and at least in regards to what the Shin people are believing. So let's talk a minute about Shinovar and what we're seeing in this image. So having scrolled over it meticulously for hours on end, there are a few things I've noticed. So clearly we have the green rolling hills of Shinovar. I thought I spotted a river here. I was trying to spot exactly where we are, GeoGuessr style, but it seems like we're not too close to the unclaimed hills because they seem just much too large for the image that we're seeing here. We see almost hut-like buildings, and really the key thing we know about Shinovar is they really revere stone. Szeth freaks out when anyone walks on stone. They call the other people stonewalkers. There is a clear law, religion, reverence towards stone, and they are not able to build any sort of walkway or building out of it. So we see residents or homes or facilities that follow the same design, that they are not using anything stone related. Good on you, Shin guys, keeping true to your word. The biggest sort of question mark is this black mist with a purple tinge flowing over the landscape here, over this particular town as well. Now there was a discussion about this on Reddit, and Sanderson jumped into the comments to clear up what we were seeing here. This is what he said. Full disclosure, final book might not have a specific glow to it. I told Randy some kind of darkness creeping across the land, visualized in an interesting way. This is what he came up with, but this was done before I wrote the sequence, and so it's only to be taken as concept art, not illustrative art, if that makes sense. And it does make sense. Regardless, I'm going to extrapolate and theorize, because where would be the fun if we just said, oh, I guess it might not be proper. No. Let's have a few guesses. And poring over this image as well, I noticed a red blip and I was like, oh my god, this is going to be key information. I can't wait to see what secret I've just uncovered in this artwork. But it just said lorem ipsum, and if you've done any sort of text work or video editing, you know this is like the standard default text when you're changing your font and about to write something in Photoshop or Final Cut or whatever. So yeah, that snuck into the official artwork. I feel kind of proud that I found that. So what immediately comes to mind here, especially with what Ishar has been saying, I believe that this is the manifestation of some sort of unmade at work in Shinovar. So we have the evidence that Ishar, even though he's a bit crazed at this moment, he says that the unmade have infiltrated the Shin people, and the Shin people have tried to make them their gods. This, I think, really ties in with the whole truthless arc of Szeth. He proclaimed that the Radiants were returning, they named him Truthless, and exiled him completely. These were the stone shamans who can make these decisions. And what they really sort of talk about is how the stones have spirits and they can talk to them and understand what they're saying. You see Szeth talk to the stones whenever he's around a mountain. Even at the end of Words of Radiance, he refers to stone objects and mountains as if they are listening to him. And we were given hard evidence of this in Rhythm of War during Venli's chapters, where she's in Urithiru testing her powers out and stone shaping for the first time. So I really encourage you to go look at these Venli chapters. I'll list them below. But really what's happening is, as she's touching the stone and willing it to change shape and molding it almost like clay, she hears voices. And with these voices come almost vision-like segments where she sees the Dawn Singers, the original inhabitants, the original singers of Roshar, and they welcome her back. It actually says, welcome home, child of ancients. And she sort of sees how these original inhabitants of Roshar use their abilities to shape the stone and build these incredible cities that we haven't really seen before properly. And this is really congruent with everything we've heard about the Shin culture and the Shin belief system, and everything we know about the stone shamans in Shinovar, where there's a rich history. There are these spirits of the stones. They get messages from them and say that they can relay them to the people. So where I think this is all tying into, it just seems, as Szeth has been named Truthless and exiled, this was said by the stone shamans. So were they getting incorrect information from the stones saying the Radiants will never return? Or do they have their own motives and they're lying to their people? Not only Szeth, but the entire society. There seems to be a whole lot of conjecture as to why they have the honor blades, what the purpose of that is, what the true history of Shinovar is, besides being a safe haven for humans when they first arrived from Ashen, and what the motivations are of the heralds and their relation to the people of Shinovar. But really, this is basically all we have to work on for what we can see here in this preview of the next Stormlight book. I would love to go into more detail, but then before I know it, I've got a 45-minute lore video that I wasn't intending to make just for the moment. I mean, the death rattles. What freaking death rattle is going to apply to this sequence with Kaladin and Szeth? I'm so eager to find out. So yeah, in the comments, let me know what you're thinking about this new artwork, what you thought about Sanderson's update, and how do you think Shinovar is going to play into this greater story into book 5. I just think he's teased us enough, and it's about bloody time we saw what the hell is going on there. Thank you so much for popping in and nerding out with me about Stormlight. I'll see you all in the next video. Hope you're all well. Bye.